Greetings and welcome to The Thirsty Mage, the podcast cursing the developer who came up with the idea of permadeath. Welcome to the podcast, I'm David Lloyd, and this episode we talk about the Fire Emblem game with the least amount of waifus. That's Fire Emblem, the Blazing Blade, first seen on the Game Boy Advance. This also so happens just to be the first Fire Emblem game to arrive in the West, so we took it for a spin to see how well it's aged after 22 years. Joining me is Fire Emblem expert and Three Houses apologist, Paige Chamberlain.
Well, actually, I think you might be the Fire Emblem expert now.
I've played a lot of Fire Emblem in a short period of time.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll take that mantle one day. I still have a lot of Fire Emblem to get through though, so I'm working my way on it. This is not the first Fire Emblem, or not the only Fire Emblem I've played in the past month.
Yes.
So yeah.
We'll talk about that, but yeah. So we're talking about Fire Emblem. That's what it's called.
yeah. Well, that's funny.
No other name.
I don't know where the Blazing Blade stuff came up. I know that's like the subtitle, but you wouldn't see it on the box from my understanding. It just says Fire Emblem.
Well, I assume it would have been in the Japanese title, you know.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Let me have a look. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that from the Western perspective, our first experience of Fire Emblem was Marth and Roy in Smash Bros. Melee.
Yep.
And then they finally decided to release one of these games in English, so they went with the 7th game, is it?
Yeah, the game that does not have Marth or Roy?
Yes, the one where we play as Roy's dad, I think. I think Eliwood is his dad. It's a prequel.
Yeah, I think he's like, I can't remember if one of the characters is like a descendant of one of them.
I was under the impression that Eliwood is Roy's dad. So there's a game before this that wasn't officially released in English where he plays Roy.
Yeah.
And then there's this game, and then I think the one after it, I don't know, do you go back to Roy? I'll double check. But we play Sacred Stones. Who do you play as in Sacred Stones? No, you don't. It's the twins. But yeah, it's very funny that they do. They're like, here's the first one. We'll just do the newest one we have out for the Game Boy Advance. Actually, I'm going to double check something, because that year it came out was 2003. And when did this other game come out? There you go.
It was like a year or two later.
So we got Advance Wars before Fire Emblem.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. I mean, it came out before that, but like, you know, there were other Fire Emblems, and even the War series, like the same, also by Intelligent Systems, was, you know, originally on the Famicom, so the Famicom Wars, and then where did they go? Famicom, one for the Super Nintendo, Game Boy, yeah. So we got a taste of this the modern one before we got the historic, vaguely, I don't know, I guess you just say fantasy.
Yeah.
You know, it's where it's, you know, it's sort of set in the past, but not of the real world. You know, its own thing with magic.
Yeah, kind of a medieval
dragons and
dragon.
Vaguely medieval-ish time period. Yeah. So it's very interesting. So what Fire Emblem games have you played before this one?
So my history with Fire Emblem, it would have started, I believe, Roy and Marth, obviously, in Super Smash Brothers was the first time I've ever seen someone who's from Fire Emblem. And yes, definitely playing that game, I'm like, who are these people? I have no clue. But they have swords, so I would use them often. But my first real Fire Emblem game would have been Awakening on the 3DS. I don't remember a whole lot from that game. I would definitely have to replay. I remember following paths, and I think there's relationships. Can't remember. Like it was a long time ago that I played.
There's baby making in that one.
Yeah, that's the one thing I remember from that game was like people getting together. And
Yeah.
then I think it would have been Three Houses after that. Like I didn't play much Fire Emblem after Awakening, and I'm pretty sure Three Houses on Switch. And I played through that game twice because I initially played as the archer, the rogue character, and then I played it again as Edelgard, I think her
Oh
name
god,
was
yep.
the. Yep.
So, but you're not a fan of it.
No, I liked it.
Okay, well, he's calling me the
Yeah.
apologist, so I thought you.
Well, I was calling you because you and Casey were arguing over which if it was good or not.
Yeah.
I mean I liked it because I mean part of it was like I'm a Persona fan, so I didn't mind all of the Persona-ish stuff that was going on. Again, because I hadn't played much Fire Emblem at that point, and then Awakening had the romance stuff anyway. Like it didn't seem that far off from a regular Fire Emblem to me.
Yeah.
So it didn't seem out of place to
From
me.
the new
But
school perspective, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, for me, similar. I played a little bit of Awakening. It wasn't any good. I was trying to do like classic. I'm like, I'll see how far I can get with like not resetting or anything. And well, I didn't have a lot of people for one of the first story points. I played like 3/4 through Fire Emblem Echoes before I dropped that. Barely played any Fates, and I finished Three Houses, and I finished Fire Emblem Engage, and that was a good game. I played that like in a just over a month. I think I was playing it. It was very funny because that was my daughter was only a few months old, and like whenever the trailers for it was on, she was like, "Ooh," because of the colors. But when I was actually
mm-hmm.
playing the game, she get mad. Because it wasn't as interesting, I guess. And so this is my. Oh, I did also play a little teeny tiny bit of Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon when they made a official English translation for the Famicom version, and temporarily put it on the eShop. And I got the fancy edition with the fake cartridge and everything. So that sits behind my Arm and Celica amiibos.
Is Shadow Dragon the direct sequel to this one?
No, Shadow Dragon is just like the subtitle, and then there's a DS game called Shadow Dragon, and that's a remake as far as I'm aware.
Oh, okay,
But
yeah,
then,
you know what? Shadow Dragon might be the remake of the original Fire Emblem,
yes,
actually.
it is.
Yeah,
That's
right.
what I mean. The DS version is a remake of the first Fire Emblem, and then I believe it got a follow up as well. I'm gonna have a look down here. We got New Mystery of the Emblem is.
What's funny too is that so there is when you
that
finish
didn't get released in English. We got a remake of the first game for the DS, and then they're like, oh, let's do sort of a sequel-ish. Oh, okay, another. Okay, never mind. Sorry, that's also a remake. Is that one meant to be a story sequel? It says so. It's more. Yeah. So we got the one remake, but then not the other remake that came out later.
well, it's funny. Matter. There is a direct sequel to this game that we're about to talk about, but it was only released in Japan, and it was technically released before this game, which is hilarious.
For like when we would have gotten it,
yeah.
It's weird decisions anyway. But so far nowadays Fire Emblem's doing well, but this was some people's first experience with the game, and yet going from the new school games to the old school games has some very interesting differences.
Yes.
One thing, obviously, there's no casual mode, things like that. It's just they die. With the exception of this game, the story starts as you play as Lynn, who has sort of lost all her family. The place is getting attacked by bandits, and then you find out you're apparently like the long lost granddaughter of a marquis. So you make the journey to him, and you like recruit some characters, and that's all very tutorial heavy to the extent it starts getting a bit annoying because they're like, I can do this, and then you click on somebody else, and they're like, no, pick me, you have to. And I'm like, oh, I know how to move somebody. Let me know. And then it starts to go into so then you'll meet some of the other characters that you'll like switch to later, where you like they all sort of end up meeting up in the end. But in that prologue, people can die and then they come back. Because I was like looking up, is this character worth resetting for? Because I'm playing it on the NSO app, and the interesting thing about NSO app is like you can just use sort of the game save, but that's separate from like the save states they have inbuilt. And if you use one of those, it wipes the whatever save was in, like just sitting on it on the game. So I'm just going through it sort of normally and just resetting a chapter if I have to. But I was like, oh, is this character worth resetting for? And it's like, oh, they'll come back anyway. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll just for the first 10 chapters, you get away with it.
Yeah,
But,
I was playing on a device that had save states, but I will refrain from naming said device.
So how do you feel about not having an option to not have permadeath?
It was interesting. I definitely did not realize that. I guess coming from the new school, I just assumed that the character didn't necessarily die in battle. They would just kind of pick up where they left off the next battle. But I lost Florina pretty early on, and I think it might
squishy.
She's very, very, she's very weak. So I threw her in battle whenever, I think it was like a chapter or two after I got her. So it was in that initial 10 chapter tutorial. So she died. And then I think I lost, I'm trying to think of who the character was. I want to say it was one of I thought he was an archer, but I'm looking at the list of characters. Oh, it is Will. I lost Will and Florina, because Will's the archer. So I lost Will and Florina in a battle. I want to say around 7 or 8. And then they were just gone. And then the tutorial ended. Like when you do the 10 chapters, there's kind of like a breakdown of like, oh, and this person did this. And I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. I didn't realize, that there was some consequences to allowing them to die in battle. So
when they die in real life.
Yeah. So I may have abused the save state systems late in the rest of the chapters.
Those are the two I lost in the prologue. So I just
yeah.
Well, like what with the Lynn's chapter, it's not like there's an chapter called prologue, but you know what I mean. That first set, they're a bit weak. So I've mostly just been resetting. So far I haven't had any particular one that I'm like, I'm not completely overstocked with characters just yet because I got about halfway through the game, and like so far I'm just like my XP, no. Well, no, in games where you have like in Fire Emblem, I think the newer ones I would pick classic but like normal difficulty, and then people I know would go casual but harder difficulty. So I'm wondering how the balancing difference with that is. But yeah, even in games, tactics games where there isn't permadeath, I usually like reset anyway because I'm like, I need them to level up. I need their XP. They don't get that if they die.
Yeah. Well, and
so I'm kind of used to it anyway.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about this game too. Is like, so right now I'm playing Echoes, and like the characters that you get are always in battle. Like it doesn't. I've never had to like, oh, well, you only get 12 of your 16 or 10 of your 16. Like it's just they're always there. But in this game, Blazing Blade, I was like a little surprised that it was like, oh, here's like you got 20 characters and 10 can go into battle, and I'm like, come on, like. And on top of that, like you said, XP is such a big deal in this game, where it's not you're almost penalized for kind of balancing your characters, because I just found that the characters don't get strong enough if you're not using them enough. So if you're kind of trying to balancing the XP over all of these characters, it's just not a good way to go through the game, because it just makes it that much more difficult. So I was finding myself kind of gravitating towards the characters that I was getting earlier in the game, because they, I'm they're the ones getting the XP, so I'm not going to like bring in somebody who's below or whatever. So really the only time I was adding characters into my party would be like people that you pick up along the way that were already kind of either on par with the party, or in a lot of cases they actually were stronger than most of the people that I had. So I would bring them in and move someone out. But I was definitely trying to keep like a set 10 to 12 or whatever. That it's typically 10 to 12 that get to go into any one fight. So
I think, part of it is that they expect you to just keep going and not to reset every time, because, there's the characters who can't die, and because you lose the whole map. I found the resume chapter function useless, because it just takes you into the enemy's turn and they die again, so I don't get the point of that at all. At least, let me change to my turn. But you'll see that, though, because, there's one chapter and you get 2 fighters at the same time. and like two, so you don't. I mean, I often use them both on the same map, but like you have two guys on horses at least. You've got a couple of different magic guys, so you've got backups basically. Uh,
Yeah. Was there any like particular class of characters that you were leaning towards? Like, I found myself always kind of leaning towards the magic characters, where it's like I would kind of max out who I had. So tip like in the I know early on the magic characters I think were like you'd get. I know Eric and Sarah were both like Sarah was more of like for healing and stuff, and but Eric was one of my more powerful magic users. So I was like, and that's the thing is I would typically like use him to finish off enemies. So he was like siphoning all the XP, but it kind of worked out because it seemed like he was growing a lot quicker than the rest of the party. So I guess that's the thing is like you start getting, you start using someone a lot and then they're building up quite a bit and you kind of like use them as a crutch almost.
I didn't really particular one character over another so far. I think there's maybe a couple where I'm like, no, not you, go away. But
Yeah.
I mean, it depends what the fortune teller tells me I need for the map.
Oh yeah, that's a neat thing in between. So yeah, like when you're doing, so the way that the structure kind of works is that I believe there's about 32 chapters in the game, and basically that's like 32 different battles or whatever. So the
Yeah, you
first
go
set, like
you go straight from battle to battle, or
yeah,
battle to cutscene to battle. The only exception is if you do certain objectives which might may be hidden, you might unlock a bonus chapter that you'll just skip over if you didn't meet the
yeah,
requirement.
it
You won't really know
unlocks
you
a
missed it. Yeah.
side quest, like
Uh,
it unlocks an
Some of
optional
those
side
can be
quest.
kind of hard.
Yeah,
It was actually funny. One of the first ones was like, it's just they ask you yes or no, do you want to go get the thing, and like, oh, it's really dangerous, and it wasn't very dangerous at all.
yeah,
It was quite easy. But
yeah,
then there's like a couple of the side ones I've done, like the swamp level was a little bit hard because of the
yeah,
fog. That
yeah,
was like the first like proper fog, really like proper fog level. And the one I got stuck on so far, which is 16 export of Badon, because uh, the a thing that happens a lot in Fire Emblem games, which isn't very popular, which is surprise reinforcements. Like turn 2 of
yeah,
this map is surprise. Here's a boss and a bunch of really tough guys right here, right next to you in this
yeah.
town. Um, so that's caused a bit of a problem.
Well, one of the things I didn't realize halfway through until probably halfway ish was that characters like some of the enemies you were fighting could be recruited.
Ooh, okay.
I wish I had known that
I
much earlier.
Really? I
Yeah,
personally felt that the recruiting was much more hinted at, unlike the original Fire Emblem. It would because you'd get a little cutscene where the characters are talking, and you'd be like, "Hey, that's a guy with a name and a face, that is different." Um,
yeah,
and they'd mention that they know a certain character, so I'm like trying to bring the thief all the way down to there to talk to the guy. Although then I had to reset because he stepped on a mine before that, and because he switched sides, he then got like ganked by 3 guys in the middle of the bridge. So I recruited him a little bit later, so I could heal him and stuff. Yeah, I think for the most part, other than sometimes they're just sitting in a house, so you could like check every house.
yeah.
Um, for the
Well,
most
some
part, I
characters
found
needed they needed a certain character
yes.
to be in. Like I remember Isadora. I think that was maybe when I first clued into like, oh, I might have missed people before because Isadora was a paladin in chapter. I think she was pretty early. No, it was like chapter 20 or something like that, where she was on the field, and then I was like, oh, this character can talk to her on the battlefield, and then you convince her to join the party, and then that's when I was like, oh man, I've been missing people.
You probably missed quite a few.
Yeah,
Like say this chapter I'm on, this bonus one, you can pick up 2 guys on it. Um, yeah, and let's say there's one I did before, and you've got in Fire Emblem games you often have like people like you've got your blue enemies red or whatever, and then there's green, so they're like the characters you don't control and they're doing their own thing. So I saw one of them mentioned their sister's name or whatever. So I brought
Yeah.
that character up to them. So then I'd get that. Yeah. So I don't know that stuff. I guess I already knew about from other Fire Emblems, but it's really funny because I was gonna I've written. I thought it was actually pretty hinted at, and you're like completely oblivious. So
Yeah.
maybe not.
Well,
Yeah.
there was some, like the one that you mentioned. I think on chapter 16, there's two characters. Yeah, like Raven and
Yeah.
Lucius. I did end up recruiting them. Like there was
Yeah.
people I was recruiting. I didn't miss everybody, but I guess maybe I thought it was just more like if it wasn't completely obvious that you could recruit them, I must have missed them because I'm looking at the list. I don't remember Canis, the shaman. Like I think I might have missed him, and I don't remember
Maybe.
if I got Dart because I don't.
Yeah.
He doesn't look familiar either.
Well, like I said, they're both on a bonus chapter, so I don't know if you do the one where you're fighting pirates.
I did one where there was like a pirate. He was like, if you can get to the end of
Yeah.
the, yeah, I did that one,
Yeah,
but
they're
maybe I did
both
get Dirt,
in.
and I don't
Yeah,
know.
so Canis is in a house, and you just get him,
No,
and then
that's why I missed him. I
and
didn't go into
then
any houses on that one.
yeah, Dart is you have to not fight the guy or something, which is hard because then the fight with the other guys gets triggered, and then you step one bit too close. Oh yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
That one's a whole thing. I'll get into it in a minute. But yeah, so what's different between one of the main differences between old school and new school is you don't have a home base. You don't stop between chapters and do your shopping, put on the items. And so what's very interesting is that in this you'll actually spend turns doing shopping trips because there'll be the shops on the map, in the battle map. And then you'll have to get some guys on the horses to go do the shopping trip and then make sure they have enough inventory space. And then one of the bonus guys you get is the merchant character, and that helps you.
Merlinus. Yeah,
Yeah, so you've also got a little. That's a very unique mechanic because I don't even think this. I don't know how many of the games use him, but it's definitely not in some of the early old ones anyway. He is like a little base on a spot, so then you have to protect him because basically at the end of each level he'll get stronger and they have more defense. But that's a way to access your entire inventory on the map, is that to take them
yeah.
it's just sitting in the tent. So that's
Again,
actually
I learned
kind
the
of
hard
cool.
way that you had to protect him. I was
It
like,
told
I
you.
sent
It
everyone
told
off.
you.
I wasn't paying attention, I guess, because I sent everybody off to fight, and then all of a sudden somebody was attacking the tent, and I'm like, and yeah, they're like, why is that guy attacking that tent? I don't even think I realized that the merchant was in the tent at the time, and
Oh
then
my
it said
god.
like Merlin has died, and I'm like, what? So I had to reload my save from there.
Um, yes, but you do eventually between chapters. You do get that's when you can swap around inventory, between
Yeah,
battles as well. But during a battle, the merchant that's how you would do it, and drop off stuff to him because you've got very limited inventory, and you're probably
yeah.
holding 2 or 3 weapons on you because it's also got the weapon breaking thing, which is in. I don't know if there's any. Is there a few that don't have it?
I don't know. I was trying to think, like, because Echo's definitely doesn't. There's no weapon breaking there, like, and it's not even. Well, that's the funny thing is like so comparing it to some of them, like Echoes, you only get one inventory slot, and it can either be a weapon or a healing item. And then with this one, Blazing Blade, I believe you get
Oh,
5 spots.
okay.
And
Literally
yeah,
only Gaiden and then the remake and Engage get rid of durability for weapons, but then stuff like staves and items still have a limited use. I mean, staves, I feel like the healing things obviously, but
yeah.
um yeah. So no, that is the norm for the whole series.
Oh, it is normal. Okay.
Yeah, that's it's it's like there's 2 games that don't do it, and then that's
Yeah.
otherwise it's the norm. So you've always got a better or worse weapon. Just I've always got at least one extra weapon on them because that's the other thing is they can use, depending on their class, they can use a couple different weapon types, or have or different bow types. You want the short bow, you want the long bow, you want the hand axe or the regular axe. So sometimes you've one of the important strategies in Fire Emblem is to set yourself up to do counter attacks, and then if they've got the hand axe on them because you're hitting a ranged guy, the chances of them actually landing a counter attack is very low. Or sometimes I've accidentally just had them not equipping something, so they're just getting hit
Yeah.
in the face and doing nothing about it. Yeah, so that's, I think, yeah, the design, the not having. How do you feel not having the extra place, like not having the monastery or the somnial or like things like that,
Yeah.
like
Well, and it's
having to do your shopping on the map and having,
yeah.
and having a merchant and stuff like that.
Well, I never felt like I was ever like there was times where I'm like, oh, I used up all my weapon, I'll have to trade, or I won't be able to use that person. But that was pretty rare. Like I found that if I did a little bit of inventory management in between missions,
Yeah,
I
well, I
was
think
never too
once
bad.
you can start doing stuff in between missions, I feel like that makes a difference. I
Yeah.
actually have a shopping list on my phone. So I need to buy a javelin and 3 swords and an axe and hammer and
Oh, yeah.
2 more healing item, like
Yeah.
2 heal staffs, and then 10 vulneraries is my shopping list.
Well, and the
Uh,
nice thing too is that enemies do drop things. Like so
yes.
you can get weapons
Well, that can be a
and healing
problem though,
stuff.
because I'm full, and they drop something.
Well, if you have Merlin
Yeah.
equipped,
Oh
then
right. That's
it'll go to
yeah.
Merlin though.
That's
Yeah.
why you want Merlin.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it gets a bit easier to do all that once you have those features like Merlin and the just in between battle things.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind. Yeah, it's just kind of funny doing like you, especially, it's actually, there's like some levels where you have to get the Lord to sit on the chair to end the battle, like you've killed everyone. So
Yeah,
yeah, then
specific
that's when
person.
you can just go. That's when you can just go shopping. And then I'm under the impression that there's like a chapter in the game that literally is just dedicated to letting you
Yep.
buy stuff. Yeah,
Near the end, yeah.
it's just very funny. Rather than, because I think the follow up to this has the world map sort of thing, like Awakening and some other games have, but
Yeah.
this doesn't.
I was actually waiting to get ambushed. I'm like, there's got to be a trick to this. They're
Yeah.
gonna ambush me at some point, and they're like, no.
One thing I find annoying though is the arena is just like on a map, and on
Yeah.
this annoying map. So it's not just a place you go and try it out. It's like, oh, so you have to beat this map and then spend more turns doing something that I think they could still die in the arena too.
Oh
Like it
yeah,
doesn't.
they can.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
they're not practice fights. They're for real, and it's like, are you
Yeah,
serious?
and I didn't like I tried it a couple times, but like the
That's
XP wasn't going up quick. Like it wasn't very quick, so I'm like, what's the point of this? Like
yeah. I was like,
I'm not gonna
I feel
spend
like
time on
that's
this.
something you're really only going to engage with if you've got like save states for sure,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
because it's not even a separate area. It's on this.
No,
It's on
like
the
it's
map.
like you could weaken your guy and then come out and you're like, oh, I just got smoked by by the opposing enemies. Yeah, it's interesting. Like it's funny that a lot of the maps are pretty similar. Like you're always kind of outside, so there's yeah, there's like the grass areas, and then sometimes there's mountainy areas or whatever, and then yeah, you would see like little villages where you can go talk to the villagers. Like you'll go into the house, and sometimes it'll be a merchant, you can buy
I
things, and other, or it'll be
Actually,
you
something
know
that happened in Fire Emblem Engage, I think, was just like one map where there's lots of houses, and like every time you open a house, you just get attacked because it's just filled with like zombies
oh
or
yeah.
something. But like everyone would get tripped up by it because they're just so used to like checking out the houses in the Fire Emblem game. So it's like it really,
Yeah.
got them. They had to go against their inbuilt programming, really.
Yeah. But yeah,
One,
it's usually just story stuff. Like there'll be like a hint to something, or
yeah,
yeah, or stuff like that. So nothing, or but then sometimes recruitable characters were in there. Like um, we were joking before the recording that it's crazy that this game has a recruitable character in the second to last chapter, and it's very
yeah.
like just kind of like this offhand thing where it's like there's this building that's kind of away from where all the fighting is. It's like the fighting's kind of concentrated in like the bottom to right side of the map, and the top left is kind of like there's a couple of buildings there, but there's really no reason to go up there. Like it's the objectives on the right, and the flow of battle always moves you to the right. But the first time I played the chapter, the enemy went into a building there, and a guy came out and he said, like, "Screw this, I'm leaving." And I'm like, "Okay, what happened? Like, why is there a face and a name person coming out saying like, forget this?" And he literally just walks off the map. So I'm like, okay, that seems important. So I restarted the mission, and I sent like one person direct, like just right off the bat. I'm like, I'm just gonna send a guy right, fire him off up there, and we go in, and the guy's like at the bar having a drink, and he looks at my character, and he says something to the effect of like, "Oh, I guess I'm not gonna be left alone." you know, and he's like, no, do you want to help us out here? He's like, yeah, sure. And he comes out, and he's like this powerful mage. And I'm like, I'm kind of happy I got this guy, because he was very important for the final chapter. The one, like, he helps you fight in that chapter, and then helps you fight in the final chapter. But it's so weird that there's like a recruitable character in the second to last chapter.
Yeah, there's I feel like a lot of sort of hidden stuff. Like one of the things is like the bonus levels. Some of those, like there's a couple where it's like, oh, do you want to do this? Yes or no? Or like you get hinted at like, oh, this merchant guy dropped his stuff, and you pick it up, and then that just automatically triggers doing the bonus level next level. Um, but then others are apparently just like you beat the level in a certain amount of turns, and most of these levels don't actually have a turn limit because I guess the shopping
Yeah.
and stuff. So I've unlocked quite a few. I'm not bothering to look it up, but like I've managed to unlock quite a few. But it's like, oh, that's probably quite a few I'll also miss out on because I won't have done it quick enough or whatever else I need to do. Um, and one of the things I think is also very like hidden is the support conversations.
Yes.
So certain characters, you put them next to each other, and they can talk and have a little support convo, like on the battlefield, which is what it used to be up until I think Awakening. I don't think any earlier ones that they did it outside of they had the barracks and stuff, whereas you don't here. So far, the only people I've got to talk to each other was like outside of recruiting was like Hector and Eliwood.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to. Yeah, I don't look up too much stuff because I can still get through it and enjoy it as it is. But part of me is like, maybe I should look up who can make friends with each other because you still get sort of those bonuses like you do in the other games, but it's
Yeah.
it's not highly telegraphed. I
A
think
little fewer and
there's a
far
lot of
between. Yeah.
there's a lot of tutorializing, but then there's some other things where it's not so much. So
Well, that's the other thing, is that I don't feel like they did a great job of explaining how the like evolution or the ranking up of certain characters.
yeah, that's what I was like. They teach you it, and you find these items, but like you don't really have a good idea of like when you should do it or who to do
No,
it
and
to.
yeah, well, and yeah, because there's like it doesn't really like, when you get the thing, it might be like, oh well, if you have a warrior class, you can upgrade them to a fighter to a warrior or something like that. Like, I definitely had to look that up, because there's a couple characters where it was like, oh, you got this item, so it only works on this class of character. And then I was like, well, okay, who's that? And there's only, a lot of the times, there's only like two people in a certain class, so it's like you pick one or the other or whatever. And but they were they were massive upgrades. Like, I remember I one of my characters, Dorcas, or however you pronounce his name, he was a fighter, and then he upgraded to this warrior, and he was like this monster of a beast when he became the warrior. And he just, like, he was easily one of my most powerful characters when he evolved. And like, it was incredible. Like, he just was just tearing through everybody the rest of the game.
Um, I know I have like I've got a couple characters that are really like tough, and then I kind of hate to use them because they're eating up all the XP. Because guys are just
Yes.
going up to them and like shoving themselves into his like lance, but like I also have to put them out on the front lines because then they can take the hits, and then the other guys can actually come and fight. But that's my thing where I'm trying to like I want to get these other guys to be strong. So I've got like Marcus especially because he's on the horse too, and he's got both the weapon and like he's a beast. And Wallace is pretty good too, but he's very slow because he's a knight. But like if I need someone to tank for me, there's that. But then they managed to kill them because I've got a double hit on the counter or something, and then it's like, oh, I needed that for somebody else, man.
Yeah,
Stop being
Marcus
good.
was definitely, yeah. I think Marcus might have been my MVP of the game, because
Hmm.
yeah, whenever there was like, oh, I need a tank to go out and like distract these people and survive, it was usually Marcus I'd send out, and then also it would be like, oh, there's a big boss that's really powerful. I guess I'll just send Marcus to go finish him off. And yeah, like you said, like at that point, what ends up happening is that Marcus becomes an HP sponge, and so you kind of have like a bunch of characters that are, they're fine, but then you have like this one character that's completely overpowered, or a couple by the time, like Dorcas and Marcus were definitely like the two strongest characters in my party. Like, and I, again, they don't really tell you, but you should really focus on leveling up the lords, like the main characters, like Eliwood, Hector, and Lynn.
And then part of me is like, well, you're used to them being the tough one. Usually you're supposed to not, do them a little bit, but not too much, because otherwise they become like a Marcus and they just take up all the XP.
Yeah. Well, and then Hector, like, just kind of annoyed me. Like, he didn't seem like he was very good at much, and
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
of the three, Hector was definitely the weakest. Lynn was just like she was like a Terminator for me. Like, it was just, if I needed her to
I
butcher somebody, like, I just sent out Lynn, because like she would usually like one
yes.
hit, like she get
Yeah,
criticals all the
the
time.
special swords, yeah.
Yeah.
I like those swords. I want more. There was actually one level, and the swamp one, and I sent Hector, the thief Matthew, and like Guy together to do one side, and Hector basically didn't do nothing. My thief
Yeah.
and the Mimidian did something more than like even the thief with like just the knife was like actually getting rid of these guys better than Hector was. It was somehow. So I think that's not good. One thing I think is sort of interesting is I feel like, at least when it comes to the modern, like we have Modern Fire Emblem, we have a lot of character archetypes we're used to. Like we have, you have your big tough older guy who helps you, but like you don't want to use him too much because of the XP. And then like we have that, but there's not necessarily like it's not an old man, like he's older,
No,
but he's not like the old man. Um, we do have
not to the
almost.
end anyway.
We don't have like the villager class, but we do have like a kid who's just the equivalent of a dancer. He's the bard. So him
He was
and
very useful though.
yes, him and
Yeah.
Sarah, I was like wasting turns just to like level him up. Like, come on, do something. Um, I think like there's things. I think when it comes to the older Fire Emblem games, some of these fit the archetypes. Like you have a couple of cavaliers, you have a couple of fighters,
Yeah.
but they definitely, even if they don't have a crazy amount of characterization, they do come across like as different. Like we've got this one guy who's sick of Eric is sick of Sarah, and like people have got their different relations. One guy's just doing it for his wife. So it's good to
Yeah.
see.
Well, yeah,
The
that husband and
personality.
wife team I really liked. I'm trying to find them on. Oh, Pent and Louise. So Pent was like an incredibly powerful mage, or I guess his sage class. So he could do both like long range magic and also heal from long range, which was very useful. But then Louise, like I like the archers because I like attacking from afar. And Louise was a sniper, so so I was like, oh my, like this is awesome! Like you just given me like a archer that's probably one of the most powerful archers I have so far. Even when I was like providing the archer with a lot of HP and stuff, like she still came in and was way overpowered based on what I had. So I ended up using like her and Pent right up to the end because they were so powerful. But it was interesting too because of the husband and wife connection too. Like you would get some unique like discussions on the battlefield. Like there was a time where I think like Louise died and Pent was pissed or something like
Mhm.
that. So I had to like, no, don't worry, buddy. I'll go back to my safe spot. Like I won't let her go.
Yeah. I think I talked a bit about like how reinforcements can be annoying, and oftentimes I would be expecting them and they don't necessarily show up, or I'm not expecting them, they do show up. On some maps, though, it was like there were obvious spawn points, so I would just sit people on top of them.
Yes.
Or
Yeah,
I
I did that a
wouldn't
few
sit
times
people on
too.
top of them, so then I could get some more XP. More kills. blood,
Yeah.
blood machine. So I take it you liked the game.
Oh yeah, I love the
Yeah.
game. Did you get to there was one map that kind of got on my nerves a little bit. I'm not sure if you had gotten to it. There was one where um, it's in like a temple or something, and there's like lava that you can't, or water or something. Like there's areas that you can't walk. Like you have to walk on these platforms,
No.
but the platforms changed, and I had to replay that so many times because every time, like, you get so far and then, like, there would be platforms behind you that would go away, and then there'd be new ones that open up, and then I'd like lose half my party because they're stuck on like this island in the middle of nowhere now, and so that was the only one that kind of like
Now, I do
I
have
was,
to question, was there anyone who said dialogue to tell you that they're about to change?
I knew they were gonna. I was aware that was gonna change, but
Because
I
on the
still,
rain, on every time it's like a rain level, they're like, "Oh, it looks like it's gonna rain," or "Oh, the rain's gonna stop," but it's
yeah,
like,
that's true. Yeah,
rain was very annoying, even with knowing that it's just like, "Oh, my horsey can't go far now."
yeah.
Oh,
It slows down
um,
at that rain. It's funny how slow everyone goes when it rains. It's like they're
yeah,
Wicked Witch of the West or
like,
something. It's
oh, get
crazy.
wet,
Yeah.
no. Anyway, I playing this game now. I can understand why people really like Lynn, like why she's a
Yes.
big fan favorite. I just yeah, I remember like saving like a fair bit of dialogue because it's just so good. Like she's I definitely can a contender for maybe one of the best characters in games, or female characters.
Hmm.
For just she
Well, she's the
speaks her
focus.
mind.
Yeah,
Where we've got
she's the focus of the first 10 chapters, and then
yes.
she ends up coming in. What chapter does she come in? I have it here somewhere.
After a few,
Um,
like not that long, but yeah.
no, it's pretty early. Chapter 15. So chapter 15, oh no, yeah, chapter 15. She becomes a playable character again, and for me, like, she kind of stole the show as soon as she came back. Because it's like, oh, here's Eliwood for like 5 chapters, or Eliwood and Hector are supposed to be like the main focus. But as soon as Lynn got there, it's like, well, screw you guys. Like, Lynn's my protagonist. Like, she's way
Yeah.
better than the two of you.
I edited a picture where it's like she's like, I have neither pity nor mercy for you. Because it's like when you look at their faces just on the hovering over them in the battle, they have like a really funny smiley, like just little simple face. I put that over the top. Yeah, I've got some screenshots of posters where I was like, the guy's, I forget what he says, but he's the flirt guy or whatever. And so she says something like, "Shouldn't that be home to callow oafs with loose tongues?"
Yeah.
Just really reads in. And the bit
Yeah.
where it's like, "Oh, but if this happens," and she's like, "So we care nothing of your reputations." And telling them like, "I'm not gonna get help from you. You're talking bad about my people." She's just
Yeah.
like, she tells it like it is.
Yeah,
Um,
she's great. How was it?
I do find
How
there's a
was it for you? Like, did you like the old school versus new school? Did you enjoy it as much as the other Fire Emblems?
yeah. Like I said, there's some odd things with like the arena being a separate thing.
Yeah.
But no, I think one thing, I guess why I sort of got more into Fire Emblem with like Three Houses is one that got rid of the weapon triangle. So it's not something I'm a super big fan of, but now I've gotten used to it, especially in this one. I still have to check because I never remember it, but like I'm okay with it now. I don't hate it
Yeah.
anymore. I played like a little bits of some of the older ones, so I'm not. It wasn't too much of an adjustment, but it was just funny to see certain things like, oh, this merchant thing. I don't know if that's completely unique to that game or what. Um, I knew a bit about and then I guess the support's being a bit hard to find or stuff like that.
Yeah.
One thing I found a little bit annoying though was like, so in this and a lot of video games or certain stories, women fight on the same levels as men. Like there's no talk about there being like a genuine physical difference in terms of like muscle and like stuff like that, which in the real world does actually don't actually pick a fight with a guy your size. Like
Yeah.
but then the women will still get talked down to, like they're lesser and they can't fight and it's bad to lose to a woman. But like there's nothing in this world that shows a woman is not as on, as able to fight. So I'm like, why do we have this level of sexism when it's like there literally is no difference?
Yeah. Well, even there's a late character game, Veda. I don't know if you saw her, but she's she's like part of she's an enemy in late into the game. She's a wyvern rider, and and so there's one mission where it's like she's trying to kill the party, whatever, but she's not fighting herself. She's kind of off to the side watching it. And if you leave her and not if you don't fight her, if you just leave her, you can recruit her like in a couple chapters later, and she's like really powerful. Like
Nice.
she's a beast. Like she's just, and she rides a dragon, and she's like ripped. Like she's a pretty important character if you end up recruiting her.
How did you feel about the music in this game?
I find that the GBA, it's fine. It's not the worst GBA
Yeah,
music, but I just find GBA music in general kind of not on par with other systems.
Because we have when you're recruiting, like telling someone recruitable, we get together, we ride, and I was like, I don't like this version of it at all. Like, I almost think the
Yeah.
NES version almost sounds better. And then
Well, yeah,
I'm
mine's
trying to
actually.
look it up. I'm like, how bad is the GBA sound? If like it
I
must
think
just
it's a
be,
known thing that there's just
yeah,
something with the chip that it's just not like it's one of the worst for all the systems. Like it's just
yeah.
yeah.
So it's a bit disappointing. Although I think I've mostly probably heard the Smash Bros version more than anything else. And obviously those are like they got all and there's no restrictions and there's all sorts of instruments and stuff in them. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, I did. I think what about the animations and stuff? I eventually ended up turning them off because I kept restarting certain levels too much, so I just couldn't.
You can turn them off?
Yeah, you can turn them off. You can't make them
News
faster,
to
but you
me.
can turn them off. Yeah. See,
Oh, I didn't
how did
realize
you
that.
beat this game? You didn't read anything anybody told you.
I have a short attention span. If it needs to give me the information short and quickly. There's been so many. Wish I could remember. There's been so many games. Even like I remember last year, there was a bunch of things where I was like, "Oh, this is stupid." And Casey's like, "Did you even look at the menu?" And then I went into the menu and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, right."
Yeah, there's like this
Um,
one game. I'm writing the review for like, well, not writing, but I'm putting my notes down for like East 8, and I'm like, man, this camera is pissing me off. And then I'm like, I'm gonna go check the settings. It's like, yeah, there was a setting to fix that, thankfully.
yeah,
Um, yeah, a lot of games need to just turn off animations, which I don't normally do. But I think when I'm like retrying a battle for the like the fourth time, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna turn this off for now. Like they're cool,
yeah.
especially like the critical hits are really cool, but I've had enough now.
Yeah. I mean, they were short enough that
Yeah.
I didn't care too much. I know in Echo is like the one I'm playing now, you can just hold the A button down and it does fast forward through the animation. So you still get to see it, but it's just goes through quicker. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I kind of it's because the animation also kind of shows you if you hit or not too. Like so I try to pay attention to the animation just to see like, oh well, did I get a critical or not, and that sort of thing. So it's I don't know. I didn't mind them. Like I think I ended up. I want to say the game was about 30 hours. I think for me, maybe like between 20 and 30, something like that. So it wasn't super long. But Fire Emblem's kind of set up nice, where like the missions are typically like I don't know, 15 to 30 minutes depending on the difficulty. So they're kind of nice bite size things where
Well,
it's like,
it definitely really had that hand. I mean, it's a GBA game. It definitely really had that handheld feel of like, just quick game. Oh, just
yeah.
one more, just one more. So you just end up sitting on the couch anyway.
Yeah. So there's another I know there is another localized GBA game that came after called Sacred Stones. Like after having played this one, would you even consider playing Sacred Stones at this point? It's pretty much like from what I can tell,
I
it's pretty much the same thing, just with a different story.
I think so because I believe that one has a world map and stuff like that. So that would be, that little point of
Yeah.
difference. Like maybe not straight away, but you might be interested because it's a sequel. What I was looking, you're talking about the married characters, and I want to double check now. Was it Lewis and what's his name?
Oh, Louise and Pent. Yeah,
Louise and Pent. So
I think there's something about their kid or something in that one.
Louise, not yes. So they yeah, they
Because
had.
I think Pent was like a Marquez or Marquis.
Yeah, the Marquis
in
thing.
Yeah,
Was,
I'm
everyone's
pretty
a
sure he was
Marquis
a
in that
Marquis.
game.
Yeah.
No, stop. Give me this. Tell me what game they're in specifically. No. See, no. That's the thing. Because this one, Fire Emblem, just Fire Emblem, nothing. Blazing Blade is a prequel to Binding Blade, which we did not get. So no, their kids are in the game that's not officially in English. Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's not the other one. Sacred Stones is it's a prequel, I think, isn't it?
The one we played is a prequel.
Yeah, but Sacred Stones, is that before Blazing Blade? Or is that after? I can't remember.
Sacred Stones,
I get confused because that other GBA game that we didn't get is definitely part of the Blazing Blade story. But then I'm almost positive Sacred Stones is not part of Blaze. Like, the story is different.
Let me have a look. It might be in a different continent.
Yeah.
No, that's the same continent. Well, it's on the same continent, so
I think there's a difference in time. Like, I think it's like a lot later or something.
Yeah, probably a lot later, because you obviously, the point of like this first game, or the game and then the prequel would be like the problem is temporarily solved or something, you know. But I think it's on the same. Telling me off of that. I think that might not be the same continent. Maybe it's not directly connected then.
Yeah, I don't think there's a direct connection, but I'm interested though, because like I enjoyed the Blazing Blade, and I love like that.
You'd have to access Binding Blade a bit another way to get it in English anyway.
Yeah.
Because this the game we played is set 20 years before that one.
Yeah,
one with Roy.
Because I like the maps, I like the look of it. The story is nice. You get those cutscenes in between or whatever. Like, the story is not crazy. It's just like kind of it gives you a nice little break.
You get some great lines from Lynn.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, how many Fire Emblem games have you played since Fire Emblem?
Okay. So I finished Blazing Blade.
Yep.
I finished Three Houses. I'm almost done Echoes, even though technically the RPG Club is just starting for that one.
Yeah, I know. It's like you're gonna make this a little bit of weak game, and you're just plowing through it.
Yeah, I admit that I plowed through it, but
you probably
I'll help people through it.
Are up to where I dropped it, because there was a bit in Celica's chapter where there's like a tower, and then select that dungeon system, and she died on like the last battle, so I had to redo the whole thing, and I was like, I hit a point and I put a game down, and then I don't get back to it because I'm like,
I might be near there because
I'm like, I don't want to restart the game. It's one of the games where I'm like, I got far enough, and it's not too hard to pick myself back up that I don't want to restart the game.
So I can imagine trying to get back in like that late in the game would be hard. I'm definitely in Act 4. Like, I've already, I've went through Alm, and I went through Celica, and then I went through Alm and Celica when you get to choose between the two. So I like did all of that. So now I'm in the second phase of like you can either go Alm or Celica, and then so I think it's the final act or whatever. So yeah, when I finished that, I purchased Fire Emblem Engage. I got a used Switch copy of it, but I'm really wanting to wait till I get a few more games under my belt, because I know that Engage has like the ring system where you're bringing back old heroes from. But I don't know like how important that is.
Not really, because they don't. They're just like, hey, I'm this person, I'm vaguely referencing something that happens in my game and some of my little convos, but
okay.
They're like, not, I don't know, they're like manifestations of the characters, they're not really.
So I don't really need to know the backstory of them?
No, not really.
Maybe I might play Engage next then. I definitely want to go back to
I'm not
Awakening,
sure I need to play more than 1 to 2 Fire Emblems a year, to be honest. But you're on the attack. You've become addicted, so.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I've been well, it's one of those years where it's like I haven't really been interested in anything that's new. Like the only new game I think I played this year was Daybreak 2. I'm pretty sure it's the only new one I played. And then I'm looking at like the release schedule, like the direct just happened, and there's really nothing in the direct I was interested in. So it's going to be one of those years where it's like, you know what, I'm just going to go back and start playing a bunch of games that are on my backlog, or maybe some like Fire Emblem is definitely like a franchise that I haven't really given much time to. Um, I played 2 Metroid GBA games in the past month too. Like I ended up getting through Zero Mission and Fusion. I finished both of those.
I
Uh,
do
so
feel like that sometimes. Like, I played Thousand Year Door, and then I was like, no, I'm not gonna play the first Paper Mario. And then I started playing the first Paper Mario in less than a week. I played Aiden, 100 Heroes, and then I played the prequel that came out first. But it is a prequel story wise, which
yeah,
I should have done the other way around, because you get some tiny little bonuses that you don't get if you've already didn't start the save with them. Um, so I can get that sometimes you do just want to, like, it just gets you in the mood to keep going through those games.
yeah. So I've been addicted to Fire Emblem, but I've also been addicted to retro achievements.
Yes,
Um,
I've seen that. You're
yeah.
eating up games, and I'm like putting them down every 5 seconds.
Well, I'm in the top 6% of retro achievement now. Like I
Wow.
Yeah, I'll bring it up while we're here, but I guess there's two different ways to do retro achievements. There's one is they call it softcore and hardcore. So softcore is when you're playing and you can use save states, or you can use I guess it's mostly just save states that I'm using. So they call that a softcore. So in the softcore rank, I'm right as of today. I'm 6,495, which is the top 5.88% of like 111,000 people that are registered.
Yeah, I know.
And then I'm at about 50% of the hardcore ranked, because I haven't played as many games on hardcore, which is it locks out all of the options that you can do on in your emulator. So there's no save states. Like, you truly are playing it as if you're playing it on the actual hardware. So like on the hardcore side, like I beat the 2 Metroids on hardcore mode.
Mm,
Just because I wanted to build up, but like kind of build my rank in both sides at the same time. So yeah, I played like 3 or 4 Mega Man games now, and
yeah, I
yeah. So
one of the streamers I watch, Code, for like Code Channel. Yeah, she's been really into the retro achievement. Like, she's been doing that for quite a while now. So you'd see her just like practicing a level to try and get this like one random Castlevania achievement. Right now, I think she's playing Snake Rattle and Roll, and it says she's got the target is to complete level 5 without using any warps or something. So,
yeah,
um,
there's definitely a lot of retro achievements where I'm looking at them like there's not a chance I'm even gonna
yeah.
attempt to do
I
this.
I
Like,
don't even play some of those games; they're too hard for me. Let alone going for achievements.
yeah,
But it is a cool system, and I think people are really
yeah,
getting a lot out of that. So,
yeah. I think
um,
my favorite platinum, or whatever you would call it, like getting all the achievements of a game, was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers on Game Gear. It's a underrated fighting game. I had it when I was a kid, and it's almost like Street Fighter in a sense. Like, that's kind of how all the combat is, where you have like moves that happen kind of like where you hold down and you slide to the left, or sort of thing. And there's all like the amount of moves that are hidden inside the system is crazy. Like, it's just and then you could play as all the Rangers, all the Zords. Like, it's I don't know, if someone's looking for a fun Game Gear game, that's definitely my favorite Game Gear game.
there was a couple of, like, they're importing some of those Neo Geo Pocket games to other systems now. So there's, some of these cute chibi fighting games where they've only got 2 buttons, but you can still do your like circle inputs and stuff like that. So there's still,
Yeah.
even with only 2 buttons, you still have a variety of moves and things to do. Plus, they just look really cute. But
Yeah.
um, so they're pretty fun to mess around with, and They're not too expensive either, which is good.
Well, the Neo Geo stuff is like surprisingly colorful, and I was playing
Well, I suppose that, yeah.
Bomberman, and it's like the animations in that and just the look of everything is just incredible.
It's actually kind of sad. There's like a lot of Game Boy competitors that are just lying in the dirt
Yeah,
because they
couldn't
and
compete.
sorry that battery life says otherwise, buddy. Like,
Yeah.
that console was out forever, wasn't it? Like the Game Boy, like
Oh yeah, like
the lifespan was
it was
ridiculous.
a long time. Well,
So,
and there's
released
nothing
in
like
14 years,
yeah.
as in production ending, so a bit less than that. But like, if we're not counting the Game Boy Color, if we say that's like an upgrade, that's you've got 1989 to 2001 when the GBA comes out.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. But I
That's
mean, like there was like Game Gear. If you had a Game Gear, it like I would argue that's not even a portable device because you needed six AA batteries to turn that thing on, and you were lucky if you got an hour. So like the only real way to play a Game Gear was with an AC adapter. Because even with rechargeable batteries, it was even worse because they use a different chemical to hold the charge, and so if you use the rechargeable batteries, you were lucky to get 20 minutes out of a Game Gear, and then you'd have to charge for like 8 hours. So it's like that wasn't happening. My parents got sick of the buying batteries very quickly, so I had to get an AC adapter, and then I was just playing it around the house at that point.
Game Boy
There
is
was
still
listening
the
to
fourth
Bugsy Cart.
best-selling console of all time.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Like,
Like,
well, and the thing too is like back in the 80s and like 89, I guess, but throughout the 90s, like the Game Boy was cheap. Like they made it like if you wanted to play a video game, that was the cheapest way to do
okay,
it. Like the
equivalent to $228 in 2024. We've got the
yeah, that's
introductory price.
pretty.
So
It's pretty good. Pretty,
yeah,
given that I imagine the new Switch is going to be
yeah,
like 500 plus. So
yeah. We'll find out very soon.
yeah.
Um, well, while we're here, do you have any impressions of the last Switch One Direct for the
Oh,
audience?
not nothing.
Nothing for you.
Nintendo
Uh,
will not get a dime out of me from
well,
that direct.
if
Maybe Dragon Quest 1 or 2.
there was a
One
lot
or two.
of, we knew there was going to be a lot of like ports and remasters, but I thought
Yeah.
there's some that have been rumored for a while. A couple that I have, some reason to believe are like actually for real. Like a lot of people have been hoping for a long time that Fire Emblem 4, I think,
Yeah.
gets remakes and then we get it in English. Um, but no, yeah, nothing on that. I think whether it's for real, for real or not. I mean, there was another one. A lot of people knew about Engage for a very long time, but we didn't see anything for ages until like those pictures came out, and then I'm like, oh, it is real. I didn't think the
Yeah.
stuff I was being told was real, but then we found out that game it was just getting sat on. They were just sitting on it for a couple of years before, which is why all the DLC came out the second the game came out because they'd already done it all. It was finished. They
Yeah.
were just so that they sit on games till the time is right. I was
Yeah.
just trying to.
Well, when you're sitting on $50 billion of console money, you can pick and choose when your games come out.
Yeah, I was trying to see if the worst selling Fire Emblem game was directly connected to the one people were hoping to get remade or not. I can't tell because I feel like some it is, yes. Yeah, so there was like Junior Holy War, and then 3776 is like the next generation, so like their kids and stuff, like direct sequel.
Oh yeah.
Um, the sales numbers for that are like really, really like. I was gonna make a joke about Codename Steam being the worst selling Fire Emblem game because you have the amiibos to get Fire Emblem characters, right? But like it's sold better than like 3 or 4 Fire Emblem games.
Oh,
Actually,
right.
yeah, it's really. I think one of the things though with this other one, was that it released in the year 2000 for the Super Nintendo.
Oh, well, that might do it.
And when did the N64 come out? A few years. Yeah, 4 years.
Oh, not even a
Before
few years. I don't think
four
it was around
years.
that time. Yeah.
4 years before this game, and then we
Yeah.
released a game for the. No wonder it sold so bad. That's like enough time that most people would like have moved
Well,
on, picked up one.
yeah. Well, that's like everyone was done with 2D at that point, right? So
Yeah,
on the
mostly.
consoles anyway. Like, yeah, because I remember like PlayStation and N64 that it's this polygons were all the rage. So
Oh. Yes, aside from a few things that mix the the polygons and the 2D and stuff.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so like my hope is maybe like if they do that remake people are expecting, maybe they'll package it with like that really bad selling one because it's like, well, they're if it's a direct sequel, why don't you put them together? I guess a lot of the time. I mean, it's Intelligent Systems, not Nintendo themselves, but like sometimes it's like,
yeah,
nah, why would I do that? No. But for me, yeah, the direct was like it was at 1 a.m. and I went to bed for a couple of hours and then had an alarm and watched it, and then I was like, I should have just should have just stayed in bed. Out of order, like the most exciting thing to me is like Tomodachi Life, but it says 2026, so like how can I be excited? That's
yeah.
at least 12 months away. At least, like unless it's January, but like then maybe 10.
That
But still, that's like a whole year
yeah.
away, at least a year.
That Chucklefish game
Um,
I thought was pretty neat. The Witchbrook.
that was a surprise to me because like we hadn't heard about anything for that game for like ever.
Yeah,
It's been in the works for some time. We had
looks
nothing,
nice.
so yeah, I'll see what it's actually like gameplay wise. But it has I did
Yeah,
think that visually it looked like a sort of browser MMO, and then it's got 4 players. I'm like, oh, it does have that feel a little bit.
yeah,
The Metro Prime trailer was like, whatever. Like I think someone said,
yeah.
if I wasn't a fan of Metroid, like I don't think any of these videos would be selling me on it.
No, it didn't. Like I don't. I don't want to throw the trailer guy under the bus, but that was like the most boring trailer
Yeah,
of a Metroid. It was almost like
you
they're like,
can
oh, look at,
scan things and open
yeah.
doors.
Well, and then like, were we supposed to be impressed by the graphics? Because there's like these slow, like, look at the world, and I'm like, dude, this looks like PS3. Like, what? Move on. Like,
Oh
this
no.
is not impressive. Like,
I was surprised to see more Pokemon because we only just got some, so they showed a bit more what the game is. That's whatever.
oh, the Exta
Z
or Z to
Z
A or
Z A, yeah.
Z to A. Yeah.
Patapon 1 and 2 actually that's a surprise. Bandai Namco is licensing Sony IPs and porting them onto everything. So we've got
Yeah.
Patapon, we had Freedom Wars, we've also got the Hot Shots Golf was in that. So everyone's like, when do we get Gravity Rush 1 and 2 on sale? And then I actually retweeted one. It was like, what else is a Sony IP? And it's like a Bloodborne account.
Oh yeah.
maybe Bandai Namco will pay for it to get licensed
Yeah.
out. So that's a surprise. Rhythm Heaven again. So a lot of people are excited just because of Rhythm Heaven and Tomodachi Life, Friend Life, not Tamagotchi the game.
Yeah.
But they're not coming out till next year, and it's the start of this year. So it's like I hate Rhythm
Yeah.
Heaven. I don't understand it at all. I don't comprehend it. If the things
I
aren't,
yeah. I
if the
it looked
rhythm game is not coming across the line, I don't understand it.
yeah.
It looks like Dragon Quest 2 is that like a new party member or something? That was
Yeah,
the
there's
reveal?
something going
Yeah.
on there. Well, like one and so well, like Dragon Quest 1 is obviously like you're on your own, but then Dragon Quest 2 there is a party. So I couldn't tell if that was like if that girl was part of just the party in Dragon Quest 2 or if they
Well, I
added
thought in
someone.
2 you only had like 2 extra guys, so then they're probably giving you an
Yeah.
extra one. I'm just going to search it because someone actually knows what
Uh
has played
I
it.
thought there was
Might
four
know.
people. There was because it felt like Final Fantasy almost the
No,
second Dragon Quest.
I
But
was under the yeah. It is just a new character. Yeah, it's a new character. I was
okay.
under the impression that you only had your buddy and the princess in 2 because they couldn't manage to figure out how to, I guess, fit it in time. We got another AI Somnium Files game, which
Yeah. I don't know.
I
They already made two perfect games, so I
they only
mean,
made
what's
2.
the?
This one is supposedly set after the first game. Again, that I'm not gonna, because it's like spoils for the whole first game. Again, they're doing a thing where, say, in the second game, they did like they made you do a quiz at the start of the game, which I failed. So like you would have gotten more dialogue options to connect it to the
Yeah,
like, which I failed because I'm like I don't know this guy's name. But I I don't like that in multiple ways they're not letting Date's character grow.
yeah,
Like especially in Nirvana, it happened, and then this one where it also this one seems like we'll see more of it later, but like it seems like tied more to the guy's previous work. Since, for example, in Nirvana, there was like literally a bonus level where it was basically just something from the 999 or what the other games. I hate those kind of games. I hate puzzles. I hate escape rooms. So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm getting this.
Well, I was reading like the developers behind it, and I got the feeling from the way that it was worded that Ushikoshi didn't actually write this one, that he just oversaw it. Because they were talking about this other guy had written the scenario for it, and I was like, well, if Ushikoshi isn't the one doing it, I'm really not sure I care.
Like, we'll see how it is, but it just kind of feels like, oh, this feels a bit.
It feels like an add-in sort of thing.
Yeah, it's like just trying to cash in on it.
Yeah,
but we'll see. We'll see what it's actually like. But I'm not jumping at the bit to get it. I'll see, reviews or somebody else playing it first. Another remaster that looks like a remake is the Rider remastered, like the first Rider game. So it's like an action RPG. Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner spin-off, which I'm interested in. I saw people like the arguing about the visual look of it already, and I do see where they're coming from. Where it looks like they've just instead of like there's like one picture where they compared it to, and it's like, oh, in this one that it looks a tiny bit more colorful. Like it's still not like over the top, but it's like, oh, instead of having this cool grayed out look, it's different. And then I think sometimes the original games can look better, or sometimes especially coloring and lighting is where like remakes and remasters really drop the ball. So it's like, oh, the models might look better, but then not that I'm going to care too much, because I think I'll probably get this. I think it'll be fun to play with those demons and stuff in an action game for once. But this wasn't a big surprise because the trademarks came up recently, so we were just waiting, to be honest. What do you think about the Pac-Man game?
I can't say. I'm too tempted.
Okay, I don't know what that is, but
I don't know.
Another story seems remake, so they're remaking DS titles, which is nice. Looks like they didn't show it in the trailer, but then you can see on like the cover art of the special edition they've had a couple more marriage pro tags, which they like to do. I never really played much of this one. I didn't get into a lot of the DS ones aside from. I know why they didn't remake Harvest Moon DS, because I think it's just too similar to Mineral Town, like very similar. Even though I would have liked it. And then they also remade Wonderful Life, which is DS and Wonderful Life have like the exact same setting and same characters basically. So they moved on to one of these ones. So we'll see if it's how it is, because I never really jived with the first one, although I did like the really cutesy look of the character design and stuff. Disney Villains Cursed Cafe, that was a bit of a rip-off of some recent crazy games, but with the I don't know. I'm not interested in that. That was one shadow drop. Yeah, it's the shadow drop. The Goldman game looks alright. Sort of cool little 2D platformer. I don't care about Gradius or Salamander. Rift of the Necrodancer shadow dropped for Switch. That one seems mostly very Guitar Hero like. Tamagotchi. The way the presenter said Tamagotchi threw me off. He was saying Tamagotchi, and it was really annoying me.
And
I was trying to figure out if this was a new game or like a remake of like a Wii game, but no, okay,
I think it's a new game, isn't it?
It's a new game, but it's like a follow-up to like the DS and stuff game. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like where it's like, oh yeah, this is definitely so ones where like I can play games for little kids, but then some games for little kids are like they are too basic, they are too boring. I can't get into them,
Yeah.
unless I played it as a kid, it's like it's even for me that's too simple. The game card thing as a whole, I don't want to get into that.
I kind of saw, and I'm like, okay, this must be like some kind of Switch 2 preparation thing, so I just kind of tuned out.
Yeah, it's like it's better because you have to be online to swap the game over, but you don't have to like be online the whole time to play it. But then it's like temporarily taking the license off the game, because it's still the same thing that you can't both play the same game on two different systems at the same time, and then it's actually making it harder for if you have two consoles. It's messing with it.
Well, my thing is that Nintendo never does. Kind of
worse.
Yeah, Nintendo never does well with these kind of things. Like for whatever reason, they're just not good with technology, and And I'm thinking like this is so convoluted that there's no way this works the way it's supposed to.
Yeah. Saga Frontier 2 got just dropped. That was the other shadow drop.
Yeah. Well, a Saga game had to be dropped. Like, I don't. How do you do a direct without a Saga game? Kawazu's got all the dirt on everyone in Japan, and there's no stopping him.
Monument Valley, which was like on Apple and stuck for mobile game puzzle things, that's coming soon. Pretty cheap with some extra content. Not sure if it's my thing, but it's cool that it's getting on to like digital libraries aren't very secure or permanent, but it's definitely a lot better than phone games. Preserving phone games is a whole nother beast. And we're getting yet another beat 'em up, retro style beat 'em up with Marvel characters.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
What? Not enough JRPGs for you, or not ones you care about? Like
no, just nothing I care about. Like I don't know.
Pokemon, Dragon Quest, Saga.
Yeah,
was that it? I think that was it.
Fine. Like all the games are fine, but there's no like Final Fantasy exciting games, I guess.
Yeah, I just thought there'd be like something that would excite me. Because the only thing that excites me is like it's forever away. So it's like it's like how can I care? It's forever away. But at least they got it out of the way, Now,
like Persona 4 remake, that would be exciting, but
what do you need that for?
I don't know.
But yeah, next week we'll have Switch 2. At least me and Casey will probably talk about it. I know what everyone else is doing that day.
Yeah, I'll be around, I guess. But
so yeah, we'll talk about that. I think probably another week or two for Xenoblade, just to I don't know how far the other guys are up to talk about that.
Yep.
Wasn't there some other? You got the Game Club.
Yeah. So we're like Fire Emblem Shadows of Valentia Echoes is the game club just started. So if anyone's looking to get into that, they can head over to the Discord through thethirstymage.com. It's up in the right hand corner or right below the main content spot there that you can click on either one. And yeah, we just started this week. We're looking just to get through. I think like we're gonna try to do like 5 or 6 missions by I guess by the time you're listening to this Wednesday will be where we're trying to get through the first couple hours anyway. But yeah, it's a great time to get in. People are kind of going at their own pace. Like I said, I'm pretty much done all the game at this point, so I'll just be kind of sticking around to chat with people and help them out, answer questions or help them with missions or whatever, and then kind of like enjoy the story as we go along. But that's available. Yeah, and I'm like I said, going through a lot of the old GBA games, so we might those might come up at some point.
Yeah. But we're not short of news or games to talk about for the time being. And although there'll be more games, I assume, I don't know, how many, here's a bet, how many JRPGs will be at the Switch 2 Direct?
0.
Okay, well, I bet 2.
What 2?
Oh, not just that there'll be 2, I'm not betting.
Just 2 in general?
Just 2. So
I don't think there'll be any in the Direct. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe 1.
Well, we don't know how long the Direct is either yet. Oh no, it's 40 minutes, didn't they say?
Yeah, I think a lot of it will be just on the hardware.
Yeah.
And then they'll like Nintendo will pump up something like a Mario Kart 9 or a 3D Mario. And then there'll probably be some third-party stuff, but I can't imagine they're going to focus on anything. The only thing I could see them focusing on is Final Fantasy VII Remake. But I just don't know if they would put that, like, Nintendo's not going to put too many third-party stuff in their Switch Direct.
All right,
like, I know, like, before Skyrim was, like, the one thing. So like I could see maybe a Square game being the one thing, but I don't know. Like I think they're going to focus on their own IP.
See, how many games did they show at Switch 1? They had 1-2 Switch. They had ARMS. They had Splatoon 2. They had Mario Odyssey. So that's 4 games. Which one is this?
Well, on Breath of the Wild.
Xenoblade 2 was announced at that. Yeah, Xenoblade 2. Yeah, that was probably at the end. A hint at Fire Emblem Warriors, but not much of it. That never came in English. The
So, I
teaser
don't
for
know.
Shin Megami Tensei 5, where they didn't start developing the
Yeah.
game until 4 years after that. They didn't
Yeah.
even start making it, and they teased it. What's this one? It's not loading for Octopath Traveler. Yeah, there's probably at least
Yeah,
10 games, so yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Different time though, too. Like Nintendo was trying to get back in, and that's why I'm like, for Switch 2, it feels like they don't really need their partners to sell the thing. So that's why I'm a little skeptical to be too much partner information. Like, I think they'll probably like. I'd imagine the first 30 minutes they'll be like Nintendo stuff, and then maybe in the last 10 minutes they'll be like, and this is, what else will be coming, and they'll just kind of do a bunch of reels of stuff. Like, I don't know. We'll see, I guess.
We'll find out very soon. So,
Yep.
You enjoy your Fire Emblem addiction, and
I will. I'll probably have 3 more finished by the time the Switch 2 trailer comes out. So
yeah, and I'll get back to the Planet Mirror.
yeah. Cool. Well, I guess that'll do it for this episode, and we want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll see everyone out at the next Thirsty Mage. Bye for now.
Bye.